The sun rose slowly over Cedar Heights as Maya Johnson stepped out onto her small porch. The morning air felt fresh against her skin. She adjusted her weight on her cane, taking a moment to look around the neighborhood she now called home. Kids were walking to school, while adults hurried to catch buses for the morning commute. Maya made her way down the 3 steps carefully, just as she did every morning. Her limp was noticeable to anyone watching. The childhood accident story she told neighbors wasn't actually a lie. The injury was real, but it happened during FBI training, not from falling off a bike at age 10 like she claimed. "Morning, Miss Johnson," called out the teenager who lived next door. He was shooting hoops in his driveway before school. "Good morning," Maya replied with a warm smile. "Looking good with that jump shot." These small talks were important. They helped build her image as just another friendly face in the neighborhood, a quiet woman with a disability who kept to herself but remained kind to everyone she met. 3 months. That's how long she'd been living here now. 3 months of carefully building her cover as a work-from-home data entry specialist who moved to Cedar Heights for the affordable rent. In reality, she was Special Agent Maya Johnson, and every evening she secretly sent detailed reports to her FBI handler about the Crescent Kings gang activities. Maya walked to the corner store, her cane tapping rhythmically against the sidewalk. Inside, she nodded hello to the owner, an older man who always looked nervous when certain customers entered his shop. Maya understood why. Just yesterday, she had watched from her window as 2 gang members visited him. They hadn't needed to raise their voices. Their presence alone was enough to make the owner hand over cash. "The usual today?" the store owner asked, already reaching for her favorite tea. "Yes, please. And maybe one of those muffins, too." She pointed to the display case while casually glancing around the store. While waiting, she noticed the fresh scratch marks on the counter and a new baseball bat leaning behind the register. Protection that would prove useless if the Crescent Kings decided to make a real example of him. Back in her small apartment, Maya sat at her desk and turned on her computer. Her actual data entry job was real. A perfect cover arranged by the bureau that required just enough work to seem legitimate without taking too much time from her true purpose. She opened a locked drawer with a hidden compartment and pulled out her secure phone. A message from her handler was waiting. "Meeting at usual spot, 3 p.m. Bring receipts from the laundromat." The receipts were actually photos she had discreetly taken of gang members exchanging packages behind the laundromat 2 days ago. Maya had pretended to struggle with her laundry bag, taking her time while her specially designed watch captured everything. Looking at herself in the mirror as she prepared for the day, Maya saw what everyone else in Cedar Heights saw: a woman with warm brown eyes, natural hair pulled back in a simple style, comfortable clothes, and a cane she couldn't walk without. What nobody saw was the extensive combat training, the sharp mind that remembered every detail, or the gun hidden in a specially designed holster that her loose shirts perfectly concealed. A noise outside caught her attention. Through her window, she watched as a black car with tinted windows drove slowly down the street. She recognized the driver, one of Darius's men, a high-ranking member in the Crescent Kings. The car stopped in front of Mrs. Washington's house across the street. The elderly woman had been vocal at the last community meeting about cleaning up the neighborhood. Maya's hand instinctively moved toward her hidden gun, but she stopped herself. Not yet. Breaking cover now would destroy years of work. The FBI was close to identifying the gang's leader and their supply chain. She needed to keep playing her part. The quiet woman with a disability who notices nothing and says even less. The car eventually drove away without incident, but the message was clear. The Crescent Kings were watching everyone. Maya turned back to her computer and began typing both her official data entry work and coded notes about what she'd just witnessed. Another day undercover in Cedar Heights had begun. Maya knew something had changed when she felt eyes on her back at the grocery store. She'd been carefully selecting apples, taking her time as any normal shopper would when the feeling crept up her spine. Without turning around quickly, that would show training, she slowly shifted her weight on her cane and glanced over her shoulder. 2 men stood at the end of the aisle, not even pretending to shop. The taller one, with a scar cutting through his eyebrow, was Darius, the local Crescent King's lieutenant. He didn't look away when she caught him staring. Instead, he nudged his friend and smirked. Maya turned back to the apples, her heart beating faster though her face remained calm. She placed 3 in her basket and moved to the checkout, feeling their eyes follow her. This was new. For 3 months, she'd been invisible, just the woman with the limp who kept to herself. "That'll be $23.47, the cashier said. As Maya reached for her wallet, Darius and his friend positioned themselves near the exit. She paid and gripped her cane tighter, preparing for whatever might happen. As she approached the door, Darius stepped slightly into her path. "Excuse me," Maya said softly, eyes downcast as would be expected from someone intimidated. "You live over on Maple, right?" Darius asked, his voice casual but his eyes hard. Maya looked up, allowing genuine surprise to show on her face. "Yes," she answered simply. "Thought so. Seeing you around." He stepped aside, but as she passed, he added, "You should be careful walking alone at night. Neighborhood ain't always safe." The threat hung in the air as Maya walked outside. She maintained her uneven gait, resisting the urge to look back. Inside, her mind raced. Why now? What had changed? The answer came to her as she rounded the corner to her street. Last night, she'd been walking home from the community center and took her usual route, which passed behind the old factory building. She'd seen Darius and several others making what was clearly a drug handoff with people she hadn't seen before. She'd kept walking, head down, seemingly oblivious. But someone had noticed her. The next morning confirmed her fears. The sight stopped her cold. Bright red spray paint across her front door spelled out, "Gatched." Maya stood on her small porch, grocery bag still in hand, and felt a chill despite the warm day. Mrs. Thompson, her elderly neighbor, came outside and gasped. "Oh, honey, who would do such a thing? Let me call my nephew to help clean it." "No, it's okay," Maya said, finding her voice. "I can handle it." After Mrs. Thompson reluctantly went back inside, Maya took photos of the graffiti with her regular phone before cleaning it off. Later, she would transfer these images to her secure FBI device. For now, she needed to play the role of a frightened woman, which wasn't difficult because real fear had begun to mix with her professional caution. That afternoon, walking to the pharmacy for cleaning supplies, it happened again. A car slowed beside her, music thumping through closed windows. Maya kept her eyes forward, but in her peripheral vision, she saw Darius in the passenger seat. The car matched her pace for half a block before speeding away. Inside the pharmacy, Maya's FBI training kicked in. She analyzed her situation while appearing to browse cleaning products. The Crescent Kings were testing her, watching for reactions that might reveal she was something other than what she seemed. If they suspected she was law enforcement, they might be setting a trap. If they just thought she was a potential witness, they were trying to scare her into silence. On her way home, a group of young men were hanging out on the corner. As she approached, one deliberately stepped into her path. Maya had to stop suddenly, almost losing her balance with her cane. "Oh, my bad," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His friends laughed. "No problem," Maya replied quietly, stepping around him. "Hey," he called after her. "You're the lady from Maple Street, right? The one who can't walk right?" Maya turned, letting them see a flicker of fear in her eyes. "Yes." "Just checking," he said. "Darius says we should know all our neighbors." That night, Maya sent an encrypted message to her handler, cover possibly compromised, requesting guidance. The response came quickly, continue as normal. Too close to primary target to extract. Maintain cover at all costs. Maya sat in her darkened living room, curtains drawn, and watched the occasional shadow pass by her window. She was now caught in a dangerous game, pretending to be afraid while actually being afraid, but for entirely different reasons than the Crescent Kings imagined. Maya knew something had changed when she felt eyes on her back at the grocery store. She'd been carefully selecting apples, taking her time as any normal shopper would, when the feeling crept up her spine. Without turning around quickly, that would show training, she slowly shifted her weight on her cane and glanced over her shoulder. 2 men stood at the end of the aisle, not even pretending to shop. The taller one, with a scar cutting through his eyebrow, was Darius, the local Crescent King's lieutenant. He didn't look away when she caught him staring. Instead, he nudged his friend and smirked. Maya turned back to the apples, her heart beating faster though her face remained calm. She placed 3 in her basket and moved to the checkout, feeling their eyes follow her. This was new. For 3 months, she'd been invisible, just the woman with the limp who kept to herself. "That'll be $23.47, the cashier said. As Maya reached for her wallet, Darius and his friend positioned themselves near the exit. She paid and gripped her cane tighter, preparing for whatever might happen. As she approached the door, Darius stepped slightly into her path. "Excuse me," Maya said softly, eyes downcast as would be expected from someone intimidated. "You live over on Maple, right?" Darius asked, his voice casual but his eyes hard. Maya looked up, allowing genuine surprise to show on her face. "Yes," she answered simply. "Thought so, seen you around." He stepped aside, but as she passed, he added, "You should be careful walking alone at night. Neighborhood ain't always safe." The threat hung in the air as Maya walked outside. She maintained her uneven gait, resisting the urge to look back. Inside, her mind raced. Why now? What had changed? The answer came to her as she rounded the corner to her street. Last night, she'd been walking home from the community center and took her usual route, which passed behind the old factory building. She'd seen Darius and several others making what was clearly a drug handoff with people she hadn't seen before. She'd kept walking, head down, seemingly oblivious. But someone had noticed her. The next morning confirmed her fears. The sight stopped her cold. Bright red spray paint across her front door spelled out "WATCHERS-GATGD." Maya stood on her small porch, grocery bags still in hand, and felt a chill despite the warm day. Mrs. Thompson, her elderly neighbor, came outside and gasped. "Oh, honey, who would do such a thing? Let me call my nephew to help clean it." "No, it's okay," Maya said, finding her voice. "I can handle it." After Mrs. Thompson reluctantly went back inside, Maya took photos of the graffiti with her regular phone before cleaning it off. Later, she would transfer these images to her secure FBI device. For now, she needed to play the role of a frightened woman, which wasn't difficult because real fear had begun to mix with her professional caution. That afternoon, walking to the pharmacy for cleaning supplies, it happened again. A car slowed beside her, music thumping through closed windows. Maya kept her eyes forward, but in her peripheral vision, she saw Darius in the passenger seat. The car matched her pace for half a block before speeding away. Inside the pharmacy, Maya's FBI training kicked in. She analyzed her situation while appearing to browse cleaning products. The Crescent Kings were testing her, watching for reactions that might reveal she was something other than what she seemed. If they suspected she was law enforcement, they might be setting a trap. If they just thought she was a potential witness, they were trying to scare her into silence. On her way home, a group of young men were hanging out on the corner. As she approached, one deliberately stepped into her path. Maya had to stop suddenly, almost losing her balance with her cane. "Oh, my bad," he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His friends laughed. "No problem," Maya replied quietly, stepping around him. "Hey," he called after her. "You're the lady from Maple Street, right? The one who can't walk right?" Maya turned, letting them see a flicker of fear in her eyes. "Yes." "Just checking," he said. "Darius says we should know all our neighbors." That night, Maya sent an encrypted message to her handler, cover possibly compromised, requesting guidance. The response came quickly. Continue as normal. Too close to primary target to extract. Maintain cover at all costs. Maya sat in her darkened living room, curtains drawn, and watched the occasional shadow pass by her window. She was now caught in a dangerous game, pretending to be afraid while actually being afraid, but for entirely different reasons than the Crescent Kings imagined. The following week brought rain and a heavy feeling in the air. Maya stood at her window, watching droplets race down the glass while drinking her morning tea. Her meeting with her FBI handler yesterday had been brief but troubling. She'd been spotted talking to Officer Reynolds, who was actually her FBI contact disguised as a local cop, and now the Crescent Kings were suspicious. "Be extra careful," her handler had warned. "They think you might be a snitch." A knock at her door startled her. Through the peephole, she saw Mrs. Thompson, her elderly neighbor, holding an umbrella and a covered dish. "I made too much breakfast casserole," Mrs. Thompson said when Maya opened the door. "Thought you might like some." Maya accepted the dish with genuine thanks. These small kindnesses still surprised her after years of undercover work where suspicion was the only constant companion. "Have you heard about the meeting tonight?" Mrs. Thompson asked, lowering her voice. "At the community center? About what happened to that teacher?" Maya nodded. "I'm planning to go." Mrs. Thompson looked nervous. "They say some of those game boys might show up. Maybe it's not safe for someone like you." Her eyes dropped to Maya's cane. "I'll be careful," Maya promised, though her mind was already calculating. A community meeting would draw attention from the Crescent Kings. It could be dangerous, or an intelligence opportunity. That evening, Maya arrived early at the community center. Elaine was setting up chairs in a circle, her face drawn with worry. "I didn't think you'd come," Elaine said, "not with everything that's been happening." Maya helped arrange the last few chairs. "That's exactly why I needed to be here." People began to filter in: shopkeepers, parents, a few brave teenagers. Maya recognized most of them. She also recognized the unmarked police car parked across the street. Officer Reynolds wasn't her only backup tonight. The meeting had just started when the door swung open. Darius walked in with 3 other gang members. The room fell silent. He didn't sit down, just leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "This is a community meeting," Elaine said firmly. "Everyone's welcome to join respectfully." Darius smiled. "We're part of this community too, Grandma." The discussion continued tensely. Talks about safety, about Thomas still recovering in the hospital, about kids being recruited by gangs. Maya stayed quiet, observing. She noticed how people avoided looking at Darius, how some wouldn't speak at all with him there. When the meeting ended, Maya waited for the crowd to thin before making her way to the door. She'd almost reached it when Darius stepped in front of her. "Interesting that you show up everywhere," he said. "For someone who can barely walk, you get around a lot." Maya looked down, plain nervous. "I live in this neighborhood too." "Yeah, but for how long?" "Nobody remembers you from before a few months ago." "I keep to myself," Maya said. Darius leaned closer. "I saw you talking to that cop the other day. Reynolds. You two seemed friendly." Maya's mind raced for a believable explanation. He was asking about a break-in down the street. I didn't have anything to tell him. "That right?" Darius didn't look convinced. "'Cause it looked like you two knew each other." "I don't know any police officers," Maya insisted, allowing genuine fear to show in her eyes, though not for the reasons Darius might think. He studied her face for a long moment. "Let me walk you home. It's dark out." It wasn't a request. Maya knew refusing would only make him more suspicious. "All right." The walk was mostly silent. Maya could feel Darius watching her limp, perhaps looking for inconsistencies. She maintained her uneven gait perfectly, the result of months of practice even before her assignment began. As they approached her apartment building, Darius suddenly asked, "That accident that messed up your leg, when did it happen?" "When I was 10, Maya answered automatically. "Fell off my bike down a hill." "That's tough," Darius said, not sounding sympathetic at all. "Bet it makes running impossible, huh?" "I haven't tried running in years," Maya said truthfully. They reached her door. Maya thanked him stiffly and reached for her keys. "One more thing," Darius said. "Some of the boys think you're not who you say you are, me. I'm not sure yet. But here's some advice. Cripples who can't run should learn to keep their eyes closed and mouths shut. Otherwise, they might find themselves needing more than just a cane to get around. You understand?" Maya nodded, fear showing plainly on her face, partly real, partly practiced. "Good night then, neighbor," Darius said with a mock salute before walking away. Inside her apartment, Maya locked the door and leaned against it, heart pounding. She took several deep breaths before reaching for her secure phone. Her cover was wearing thin, but her handler's response was the same as before. "Stay in place. We're close." Maya placed the phone back in its hiding spot and moved to the window. Darius was still outside, watching her building. The rain had started again, but he didn't seem to mind getting wet. The hunter watching his prey, thinking she was trapped, not knowing she was a hunter too. Maya woke to the sound of sirens. Still in her pajamas, she rushed to the window and saw smoke rising from several blocks away. Her heart sank as she realized the direction, the community center. She dressed quickly, grabbed her cane and hurried outside. Neighbors stood on porches and sidewalks, all looking toward the dark cloud billowing into the morning sky. Maya moved as fast as her cover identity would allow, fighting the urge to break into a run. When she rounded the corner, her worst fears were confirmed. Fire trucks surrounded the community center. Flames had been mostly extinguished, but the front of the building was charred black, windows shattered. A small crowd had gathered behind the police tape. "What happened?" Maya asked a nearby woman. "They're saying someone threw something through the window around 5 a.m. Thank goodness nobody was inside." Maya scanned the crowd until she spotted Elaine sitting on the back of an ambulance, an oxygen mask in her lap. She pushed through to reach her. "Elaine, are you okay?" The older woman looked up, her face streaked with soot. "Maya, honey, I'm all right. What were you doing here so early?" "I come in every morning to get the coffee started before the breakfast program." Elaine's voice cracked. "I was in the back office when I heard the crash. If I'd been in the front room..." Maya squeezed her hand. "But you weren't. You're safe." "The center isn't." Elaine looked at the damaged building. 20 years we've been helping kids here. 20 years. Maya followed her gaze. Through the broken windows, she could see the charred remains of tables, chairs, and the computer she'd fixed just days ago. The rage she felt wasn't part of her cover, it was entirely real. As paramedics insisted on taking Elaine to the hospital for observation, Maya noticed a familiar car driving slowly past the scene. Darius was in the passenger seat, watching the chaos with a satisfied expression. Their eyes met briefly before the car pulled away. This was a message. To the community. To her. Maya walked home, her mind racing. In her apartment, she pulled out her secure phone and made an urgent call to her handler. "They firebombed the community center," she said when the connection was secure. Elaine barely got out. "Was anyone hurt?" Her handler asked. "No, but it was close. This is getting too dangerous for civilians." "We need more time," her handler insisted. "We're tracking the money trail. 2 more weeks, and we can connect the Crescent Kings to their suppliers and the officials they're bribing." "People could die in 2 weeks," Maya argued. "People could die in many cities if we don't get the entire network," her handler countered. "The bigger picture." "These people are not collateral damage," Maya interrupted, surprising herself with her vehemence. "They're trying to live their lives while being terrorized." A long pause followed. "Your judgment might be compromised by your connection to these people, Agent Johnson." "My judgment is fine," Maya said firmly. "But someone needs to represent the actual humans caught in the middle of this operation." After Anthony left, Maya made a decision. She couldn't wait for her handler's approval. She sent an emergency code to her FBI team, alerting them that her cover was likely blown and immediate backup might be needed. Then she prepared. She moved her official badge and gun from their hiding place to a more accessible spot beneath the couch cushion. She checked all entry points to her apartment and memorized the fastest routes out. Finally, she called Elaine at the hospital to check on her and warn her to stay there overnight, just to be safe. Darkness fell early, heavy clouds blocking the moonlight. Maya sat in her dimly lit living room, cane across her lap, waiting. The street outside was unusually quiet. At 9:47 p.m., headlights swept across her curtains as a vehicle pulled up. Car doors slammed. 3 sets of footsteps approached her door. The knock, when it came, was surprisingly polite. Maya stood, adjusted her posture to maintain her limp, and moved to answer. Through the peephole, she saw Darius and 2 other men she recognized as high-ranking Crescent Kings members. "Who is it?" she called, playing her part one last time. "Your neighborhood welcome committee," Darius answered. "Open up, Maya, just want to talk." She opened the door partway, keeping the chain on. "It's late." Darius smiled, but his eyes were cold. "We won't stay long. Promise." Maya hesitated, then closed the door to remove the chain. She knew what was coming. Better here in a space she controlled than being dragged somewhere else. When she reopened the door, the men pushed in immediately. One stayed by the door. The other checked her apartment for additional people. Darius stood in the center of her living room, looking around with exaggerated interest. "Nice place. Cozy. What do you want?" Maya asked, letting fear show in her voice. "Straight to business. I respect that." Darius gestured to the couch. Sit down. Maya sat, keeping her cane close. See, we've been having a problem in this neighborhood, Darius began, pacing slowly. People forgetting their place, speaking to cops, gathering at meetings. And now we hear someone's been collecting information about our business operations. Maya kept her face neutral. What does that have to do with me? You show up 3 months ago. Nobody knows you. You're everywhere, the community center, talking to neighbors, even chatting with cops. Darius stopped pacing. Then we find out Anthony visited you today. Maya's blood ran cold. They'd been watching her apartment. He just wanted to check if I was okay after the fire, she lied. That right? Darius didn't look convinced. Well, Anthony had an accident this afternoon, fell down some stairs. He's resting at home now. The threat was clear. Maya tightened her grip on her cane. I think it's time for a ride, Darius said. Some friends want to meet you. I'm not going anywhere, Maya said firmly. The man by the door stepped forward, wasn't asking lady. What happened next surprised even Maya with its speed. As the man reached for her arm, she swung her cane in a precise arc, catching him behind the knee. He buckled with a shout of surprise. In the same motion, Maya was on her feet. The disability act dropped entirely. The second man lunged forward. Maya blocked his strike with practiced ease, using his momentum to send him crashing into the coffee table. Darius stood frozen, his face a mask of shock. What the? Maya reached under the couch cushion and pulled out her badge and gun. FBI, don't move. The disbelief on Darius's face slowly morphed into understanding, then rage. You're a Fed? Special Agent Maya Johnson. She held her badge where he could see it clearly. And yes, the limp is real, injured during FBI training. But I've adapted, as you can see. One of the men on the floor started to rise. Maya shifted her stance, ready. I wouldn't. A tense silence filled the room. Maya could see Darius calculating his options, his eyes darting between her, his men, and the door. 3 against 1, he said finally, badge or not. Look out the window, Maya suggested. Darius moved slightly, peering through the curtains. His face fell as he spotted the unmarked cars that had quietly surrounded the building while they talked. Been recording this whole conversation too, Maya added. Along with your confession about Anthony, that's assault and intimidation of a witness. The front door burst open as FBI tactical agents flooded in, weapons drawn. Darius and his men were quickly handcuffed and secured. Maya's handler entered last, giving her a nod of grudging respect. You okay? Better than okay, Maya replied, standing tall with her cane, now a symbol of her strength rather than vulnerability. What about the main target? Team B is picking him up right now at his country club, her handler said, along with 2 city officials who've been on his payroll. As Darius was led past her toward the door, he stopped to stare at her in disbelief. You played us. Maya met his gaze steadily. No, you played yourselves. You saw a woman with a disability and assumed she was weak. That was your first mistake. His face twisted with anger as the agents pulled him away. Outside, the neighborhood had awakened to the commotion. Residents peered from windows and doorways as the men who had terrorized them for so long were placed in FBI vehicles. Maya stood on her porch, badge visible on her belt, watching it all unfold. The fear that had hung over Cedar Heights for so long was lifting, replaced by cautious hope and more than a little confusion as neighbors tried to process that the quiet woman with the cane had been FBI all along. The operation was over, but Maya knew her connection to this community was just beginning. The next morning felt strange to Maya. For the first time in months, she walked through Cedar Heights without pretending. No more hiding her training, no more acting afraid. Her cane was still necessary, her injury was genuine, but it felt different now. Like a part of her strength rather than a prop in her cover story. News traveled fast in small neighborhoods. People watched from windows and porches as she passed. Some looked confused, others betrayed, a few seemed grateful. Nobody quite knew how to act around her anymore. At the corner store, the owner who had always been kind to her stared when she entered. So, you're really FBI? He asked cautiously. Maya nodded. I am. He seemed to consider this, then pushed a cup of tea across the counter, her usual order. On the house today? It was a small gesture, but it meant something. Maya thanked him with a smile. The community center was her real destination. Yellow police tape still surrounded the building, but a group of volunteers had gathered to start cleaning up. Elaine stood among them, giving directions despite the hospital bracelet still on her wrist. When Elaine spotted Maya, the older woman paused. The crowd parted as Maya approached, conversations falling silent. "I owe you all an explanation," Maya said, looking around at the familiar faces she'd come to care about. "FBI," someone muttered, "pretending to be one of us." "I was undercover, yes," Maya acknowledged. "But I never pretended to care about this community. That part was real." Elaine studied her face. "Why did you come here?" "To Cedar Heights specifically." "Because your neighborhood deserved better," Maya answered honestly. "For years, the Crescent Kings operated without consequence. Regular police couldn't touch them because they had officers on payroll. We needed someone they wouldn't suspect." "Someone with a disability," Danger's mother said, understanding dawning on her face. Maya nodded. "They saw the cane and assumed weakness. It gave me access they would have denied anyone else." "The raid last night," Anthony spoke up from the back of the crowd, his face bruised but his eyes bright. "They got everyone." "The entire leadership," Maya confirmed, "including their boss, Mr. Wilson from the real estate company. The man who's been buying up properties and laundering money through them while pretending to be a community leader." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Mr. Wilson had sponsored youth programs and attended city council meetings, all while secretly running the gang that terrorized the neighborhood. "There's something else you should know," Maya continued. "The evidence Anthony collected was crucial. His recordings provided the final connections we needed." Anthony looked down, embarrassed by the attention but clearly proud. "So what happens now?" Elaine asked. "You finish your job and leave? Go undercover somewhere else?" It was the question Maya had been asking herself all night. Her handler had already mentioned another assignment waiting for her. But standing here among these people, seeing the community center damaged but not defeated, she knew her answer. "Actually, I've requested a transfer to the local field office," Maya said. "If that's approved, I'd like to stay and help rebuild." Surprise rippled through the group. "For real?" Dindo asked. "For real," Maya confirmed. "This neighborhood has work to do. The Crescent Kings are gone, but the damage they caused remains. The community center needs rebuilding, kids need mentors, and trust needs to be restored between residents and law enforcement." "And you think you can help with that?" someone called out skeptically. "I'd like to try," Maya replied, "not as an undercover agent, but as myself. Special Agent Maya Johnson, who happens to have a disability and happens to care about Cedar Heights." A long silence followed. Then Elaine stepped forward and took Maya's free hand. "Well, we need all the help we can get, and you do make a good cup of coffee." A few people laughed, breaking the tension. As the crowd dispersed to continue cleanup efforts, Thomas approached, walking slowly with a cane of his own due to his injuries. "I hear we have something in common now," he said, nodding to their matching canes. Maya smiled. "Temporary for you, I hope." "The doctor says a few weeks." He paused. "You know, I'm starting a program at the school, teaching kids that physical limitations don't define what they can achieve. Could use someone like you to talk to them." "I'd be honored," Maya said sincerely. As the day progressed, Maya worked alongside her neighbors, clearing debris from the community center. Some still kept their distance, trust not yet earned. Others asked questions about her FBI work, fascinated by the truth behind her cover. A few thanked her quietly for what she'd done. It wouldn't be easy. Real relationships never were. But as she watched Leander showing younger kids how the lady with the cane had taken down 3 gang members, Maya knew she was exactly where she belonged. The undercover operation had ended, but Maya's true story in Cedar Heights was just beginning.